Many of us do experience that we feel almost exhausted by our personal growth at times. There are certain type of phases in our spiritual journey and in our involvement in our own internal changes where it feels quite serious. It feels that we are operating on a certain level of hard mode, and we keep on pushing it through because we're thinking that on the other side, the transformation will happen. So I get you. I've been there, and I've been very serious towards myself. I have had periods, I would say, that I've been very serious in regards to, making the changes that I want to, feeling happy again, feeling good about things, getting into routines or whatever it has been, right? But I've also noticed that that doesn't help. Okay, it actually doesn't help, and it doesn't make me experience life from an easier way. And instead of making any type of progress, I'm rather just creating a false sense of progress. So it is important for us that if we feel that, okay, it feels quite serious or it doesn't feel so fun when I'm doing this kind of changes within, I start to get a little bit bored or tired of this, or almost exhausted. I almost feel exhausted in the end of the day. Shouldn't this, give me energy, right? And if you have those kind of thoughts or feelings, I do believe, or there is a big chance, I would say, that you are operating in a hard mode, that you are doing it in a serious way, and you can do it in another way, okay? So I don't believe that any person do want to be in this kind of pressured state for a long amount of time. I don't think it's healthy, and I don't think that we want to be that. So this pressure or being hard on ourselves, saying things to ourselves such as, just do this one more thing and then suddenly, it will be a change. Okay, it didn't happen, so just do one more thing here. Or it can be that you are questioning yourself, like, why doesn't it happen? Or why can I get into a routine? Why can I get back to my routine? Why can I do like things that I've always been able to do before? All of these kind of questions towards yourself is you being hard on yourself. So tune into yourself and see how your internal dialogue is going. It can be different from person to person, but ask yourself, like, where, in what area am I being hard on myself? And what do I do? What do I say to myself? What's the internal dialogue? There was a moment where I realized that I never been able to stick to workout routines. I was always, having for a little while, like working out 5 days a week or 3 days a week and having a very good, motivation towards doing it. And then I fall out of it. And then I fall into it and out of it and into it and out of it. And it continues like that for years and years and years. And after a while, I noticed that, something has to change here, like a pattern had to be broken here. And what I realized was that I added a lot of pain into the whole situation. And that is what we usually do when we are operating in a hard mode. It feels painful in one way or another doing something. We are having this kind of tough love towards ourselves. Come on, just do this one thing. Come on, you can just do it. We have this kind of beliefs in ourselves that we have to add a certain amount of pressure in order for us to do something. But what I come to realize is actually that the more love we add into a situation, the more inspired and motivated we feel. The more love we have in a situation and towards ourselves, the more we actually get to feel good about ourselves, and then we also do things more of what it is that we want to do more things of. When we are being hard on ourselves and operating this kind of hard mode, what happens instead is that we start to make a lot of experiences painful. And if we start to make them really, really painful, it gets painful to be in that situation. So we start to avoid that situation by procrastinating, by not doing it, by falling out, so to say, out of the routine because it's too painful being there. It also creates this false sense of motivation, almost as you're taking in caffeine. Your energy levels go up and then it drops, right? So many times we start to question ourselves when we're in this down mode of, oh, why did I fall out of this? Or why do I not feel as energetic for it? Why do I not feel as inspired for doing this? Or why doesn't this kind of journaling practice or whatever it is for me makes me feel good? it is not because it's something wrong with you, or it's not because you're not having energy enough, or it's not because you're not able to deal with it enough. Nothing like that. It's because you are being hard on ourselves. It's because you are not giving yourself some rest. You're not giving yourself space to be. You're not giving yourself space to actually relax, enjoy your situations, add pleasure into it, right? So instead of creating this kind of situations of pain, we have to instead create these situations of love and start to operate from a state of ease, a ease mode. And ease mode for you might be different that it is for me. So tap into what that means for you. But for instance, instead of being hard on myself, question myself, letting myself know that I didn't do something very good, or letting myself know that I have to improve in something, I do feel so much better when I celebrate myself. I do feel so much better when I show appreciation towards myself. I give myself open and constructive feedback about things, but I'm still very cheerful about it. I do feel better when I'm playful. I do feel better when I do things that feels easy. And if it doesn't feel easy, I see that as a way for me creating resistance, right? Because that's what's happened, as I talked about, the situation where you have added like pain in one way or another, because you're being hard on yourself, or you pushed yourself and putting pressure. What happens is that you create more and more and more resistance towards that thing. So also, if you feel that you are in a resistance of a certain type of situation for you, it might be whatever it is for you. Like, think about a situation where you have a lot of resistance. It might be because you've been very hard on yourself in that situation, right? So what happened is that you have created this resistance towards it because it feels harder and harder and harder. It feels not joyful, not fun to be there. You wouldn't behave like that towards another person, right? So you start to try to, in one way or another, escape from that situation because it feels unbearable in the end to be there. But sometimes we're not seeing it in that way. We're just asking ourselves, like, why do I have so much resistance in regards to this? Why is it so difficult for me to get back into this routine? Why is it so difficult for me to just understand this thing? I'm journaling about the same thing over and over again. Why don't I give the answers that I want? Whatever it is for you, whatever you keep on asking yourself, like, why doesn't this work in one way or another? It is created by resistance, and probably it is because you added a lot of hardness towards it. Like, it feels like it's a lot of effort, and when we feel that it's a lot of effort, we don't want to do it any longer, so to say. We want to escape from that kind of situation, right? So come back. This is something which I practice a lot when I noticed that I was in those patterns, and when I noticed that I exhausted myself a lot when it came to my own spiritual growth. As soon as I noticed that I was tightened up in one way or another, as soon as I noticed within my body, within my thoughts, wherever I noticed it first, so to say, that I restricted myself, that I felt that I became more and more serious, then I also made sure that I removed myself from that situation to take a break until I could come back with a new attitude, come back with a new perspective, come back with a new feeling. So at those moments when I practice, so to say, that kind of behavior and behavioral change, was when I was like, okay, I can't be in this seriousness, so I have to remove myself from this situation right now, because it doesn't help me to look at this situation and be in this kind of hard mode. I need to neutralize my energies first. I need to get into a neutral state first before I come back to it, so to say. And then I can add more pleasure into it. I can add more fun into it. I can ask myself, like, how can I make this easier for myself? How can this feel more playful for me? How can this feel as a fun experience for me? How would I do this if this was just not so serious? Asking me all those kind of questions to get back into track and really get back into source in that type of way, because that is how I see our connection with source as well. We do feel less connected to source when we are in a hard mode. So how can you make your experience a little bit more fun, a little bit more pleasurable, a little bit more enjoyable to be in? How can you make your own spiritual growth, or if it is another type of area where you see that you add a lot of seriosity and you being very hard on yourself, how can we make this change? I would say start with two different actions, which I will give you now. So the first one is that we have to look into our beliefs, actually. When we are operating in a hard mode, we have a certain type of belief that in one way or another we may believe that it is working because we have seen that it has worked from before, and usually that's the way, like, it works. Like, many times we can get results out of being in a hard mode, and we can get results out of being in an ease mode, but it depends on what is sustainable and how do we want to experience our life. We can kind of trick ourselves almost as saying that or trying to say that it doesn't work to be in hard mode or something like that, but many times we have maybe believed otherwise, and we have, due to that, seen otherwise. So it's not so easy to just shift into that it's better to be in an ease mode, right? Because many of us maybe don't really are so familiar with it and so forth. So here's just to be like realistic and a little bit open to ourselves. Yeah, maybe both ways work. Okay, great. But which way do I want to choose? A little bit more like that, right? But look into the different type of beliefs that you have in regards to it. Do you have a certain type of beliefs that you have to pressure yourself in order for you to actually get going? Um, Ask yourself like this question, like, why do I pressure myself? Why am I being hard on myself? What results do I believe that I get due to that? Or what are the benefits that I do believe that I get due to that, right? Because there must be something in order for you to stay in that situation. You have something subconsciously, whatever, you have to see it as a benefit in order for you to be there. You understand what I'm getting here, right? So really look into what are my beliefs in regards to hard mode, and can I create new sets of belief that actually support me in being ease mode instead. The second one is to create more positivity around yourself. And by that, I mean more self positivity. So here we have to change and shift our internal language and start to feel more celebrative about ourselves, appreciative about ourselves, and find out where we can boost ourselves, encourage ourselves. And this is also a way that we have to navigate through. Depending on so how much you've been doing it, it might feel easier or less easier, so to say. So if you notice that you actually are being very hard on yourself and you're not so used to having a great internal language towards yourself, start with just saying, being realistic still, being open still, like, okay, you know what? This situation didn't really turn out in the way that I wanted to. Let's say that you feel disappointed about something. State that then. Be honest with yourself, right? So, yeah, it didn't. But you know what? I did the best out of this situation. I actually did the best that I could right now. Good for me. Good, good. I want to continue to do it in that way. So encourage yourself and be realistic. You need to be honest towards yourself, right? I noticed that sometimes I need to be very, like, how can I say, like, down to earth, where you just like, okay, I'm being honest about the both sides. Sometimes it works really great when I'm just boosting myself up to the limits, just like, yeah, I'm so great, yeah, good, yeah, celebrations, it's different from day to day, a little bit, I would say. And it's also how we navigate through life. And I wouldn't say maybe different from day to day, but different from phase to phase also. Since I've been on this journey in my own internal talk and noticing how I can use a self-talk for activating myself, and using a self-talk to really get myself into better ways of living, actually, then I've also been doing a couple of changes due to that. So for me, it's also easier to just boost myself, right? But for a couple of years ago, I couldn't say, like, just boost yourself. That wouldn't give me anything. It would be like, okay, what do you mean? I can't receive it. It's so unfamiliar to me, so I can't receive it in this moment, right? So be honest with yourself. Where are you? In what stage are you at? And be okay with that, okay? And apply the way possible for you to have a more positive look of yourself. encouraging yourself more, right? Ask yourself those questions. How can I celebrate myself more? How can I appreciate myself more? How can I encourage myself more? Where do I feel that I need more appreciation in my life? Where do I feel that I need more encouragement in my life? Do I need to see myself more in some certain type of situations? What areas are that, right? So those two things, do that, and that will help you to get yourself into a ease mode instead of being in a hard mode. This was everything for today. I hope that you enjoyed this episode and video, and yeah, give it a like if you like this video, if you are watching it on YouTube. I looking forward to talk to you next time. Take care of yourself. Keep on listening to Within Talks.